The Bothy Storytelling Podcast is a member of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. And hello and welcome to another Bothy Storytelling Podcast. I'm your host, Calum Lykan. And this episode is just going to be another bit about what's been going on and what's been happening, because you know what? Variety is the spice of life. And in the last few days, I've done a couple of very different forms of storytelling activity. I was invited to speak at Wordcamp. If you're not familiar with this, it's all about WordPress, the website provider, and all the applications and all the add-ons and all the coding, etc. And it's, to be honest, quite an interesting thing to go. It's a weekend event. It was held in Calgary at Fort Calgary, a beautiful historical site. And it was lovely meeting some individuals who were passionate about this, who did all their coding, that were working as entrepreneurs, working in the business field. Some were bloggers, some were podcasters, some were actual web designers. So there was a huge wealth of stuff. And then there was me. Because I'm clueless about that sort of stuff. That's the thing that I decided to omit from my actual WordPress talk. I had put in to do a kind of talk about storytelling in the digital age. Kind of cheeky, considering I'm a complete, what was it, one of my good friends called me a Luddite, I think was his comment. His other comment was, I had once tried to get a WordPress website set up, but they refused to make it for me when I asked if the wording could be put on both sides of the page. Things like that were thrown at me. The guys that knew me thought this was hilarious that I was there, because I am completely useless. I had a WordPress website and I couldn't get it. I hated it. I had to have someone else do all the work and I refused to do that. I am a control freak. I love having complete control over my life, my business, everything I do. And yes, that causes problems, folks, because the reality is you cannot do everything and it slows things down. You sometimes need to have people to help, but at the moment, it's just me doing this, doing it my way. So yep, it's just little old me doing all the work, trying to make it all happen and not understanding technology to one bit. But the Wordcamp event was really fun. It was really nice meeting all these different people, getting to chat to people and learning their understanding. And my talk about storytelling in the digital age seemed to go down quite well. I was one of the last speakers of the event. And I had great fun, and it was so interesting to see everyone's faces, because all the other speakers rock up with their laptops, they rock up with a presentation, and there was me. I walked into the theatre hall at the Fort Calgary, and they're looking at me because I'm not carrying anything. And the organisers are kind of like, okay, so do you have anything to rig up? And I'm like, no, this is about storytelling. This is not about a visual presentation, because if you notice, a lot of people talk to a screen when they're doing a presentation rather than talking to their audience. And I'm totally against that. And the format of my actual presentation was pretty much just telling people about storytelling, giving them an understanding of how it works. And it went on. There was a wee bit of ramble. I'm not going to lie. You know me, I like to ramble and occasionally repeated myself once or twice just because of the nature of the beast. Had some wonderful questions thrown at me. And all in all, it was a tremendously good fun event to be a part of. And the speech went down what would appear to be really well. I got loads of people coming and asking me. Ted YYC even approached me, not necessarily to do a talk. My talk was not probably up to Ted YYC standards, but certainly they were interested in me helping develop people in the spoken word field and helping them to get ready for doing presentations. So hopefully that's something new that will be coming out of that. I spoke to a lovely young lady who is interested in getting into public speaking and was looking for some advice. I spoke to a few more people of similar vein, interested in public speaking. Obviously they felt that I was doing a good enough job up there to kind of be someone to speak to. So I was very honoured and privileged by doing this event. But it didn't all go smoothly, because something weird happened mid-talk. I was making the statement that everybody has a story to tell. I used to actually say everyone is a storyteller, but a good friend storyteller pointed out, not necessarily Calum, but everyone has one good story in them. And I was explaining that, if you're going to do that one good story, if you've only got that one story, make it a good one. Make it your story. Tell the story of yourself. That is going to resonate and connect with people far better than a random fairy tale that you're making up or some sort of mythical kind of story. Because these people were all doing it for their blogs or their podcasts or their businesses or web development, whatever. And I felt that if you're going to go out into this world, be human. Give them the human aspect. Too many companies are losing that connection. They are talking about who they are and what they do, but they're not talking about the human aspect. There are certain companies that focus on it. I know Starbucks, their story can be told in 30 seconds, the CEO's story, and it's wonderful, and it tells that personal tale of how he came into Starbucks and, coffee making. There are many companies that why do I always end up mentioning Starbucks? I clearly have an addiction. There are many companies that are focusing on the personal touch, but too few of them do. So I simply was trying to get it over to people. If you're going to tell that one good story, tell your story. How did you get into business? It's something I've been doing with a few of the breweries. They have great passion for what they do and their stories are great, but sometimes they forget just to tell the story. Hey, I started in a garage. I worked my way up. This is now my business. This is my passion, my love, and my dream is just to give high quality, fine beer to people that are out there that thoroughly enjoy it. These guys need just that little bit of humanity in the business aspect to learn, to take it out there, and everyone in the world will connect with that personal story. It's just unavoidable. So there I am, getting this message across, having great fun. People are agreeing. A few questions are thrown out. I answer them, and then it comes. Now, guys, I want you to just bear in mind, this was Wordcamp. Wordcamp, all about WordPress. I have been asked to do an event on a talk about storytelling to kind of give the understanding of the importance of storytelling in all aspects of the world. There is actually a really nice quote that was taken from my talk. I mean, this seemed to come out of my mouth, but I may have read it somewhere actually and just didn't realise. I'm not claiming any originality. But the one that got bandied about Twitter after my talk was, every single day you're exposed to storytelling using different mediums. It's not exactly a groundbreaking statement, but it seemed to be the one that different people sent a message out about. There are one or two tweets out there about that, and I was kind of like, wow, okay. So obviously what I said was working. People were understanding and enjoying. But as I said, it didn't go smoothly. There was one question: WordCamp, WordPress, digital age storytelling, and this gentleman raises his hand because we're talking about personal stories that people want to hear. And this is what he asked me. What if the story that wants to be told is about somebody who's worked in a death camp all their lives? I will repeat that in case you thought you heard something different. The question that was asked was, what if the person telling the story is telling the story of them working in a death camp their whole lives? Well, you can understand. At this point, the room went very quiet. All eyes then focused on me. I caught a little flurry of movement towards the back, and it was actually some of the delegates from WordCamp whispering. I discovered later that they felt it was a very inappropriate question to ask under the context of the talk, and they were considering calling for, bad conduct on it, under the kind of code of conduct system that runs through WordCamp. However, before they did, I actually answered the question, and apparently the reason they didn't intervene is because I answered it very well. I just simply said, you know what, every story is there to be told. It's up to the teller to gauge what stories have been told. It's up to the audience if they wish to listen. There are doors. everyone can walk out. People can walk out if they wish, if they don't enjoy the story. As long as the story is told in a delicate, sensitive and appropriate manner, it can be told. We've all heard dark and horrible stories, real life tales. History books are filled with them. It depends on how the story is told. That story has its relevance in its correct place. I would admit, not in Wordcamp. However, that was the only major curveball of the event, and it just shows you, though, that clearly what I was talking about, well, I say clearly, in my heart, I hope it was all good intentions and not just somebody trying to be difficult. I was taking it that what I was saying had resonated and connected enough that that gentleman came up with a scenario that he thought, how would it be possible to do this type of story under what I was discussing? And of course, every story is possible under every scenario. It's just how it's delivered and if the audience is prepared to listen. I'm taking it on good faith that that gentleman had connected with something and just wanted to ask a question and wasn't there just to be, I will be polite and say no more on it. But Wordcamp is amazing if you get a chance to go. If you are somebody who is interested in learning more about the WordPress systems, all the add-ons, all the coding, you know, that sort of stuff, the technical stuff, the stuff that's beyond a flame, you know, all that kind of idea, then these are great. They're all over the world, apparently. I didn't even realise this, you know. There was guys up from America. They were all over for these events, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So Wordcamp is definitely something I'd recommend for anybody who is into their, you know, blogging, vlogging, podcasting, web design. Go along to one of these Wordcamp WordPress events and just learn more. Meet great speakers, meet great people, have fine food. They feed you at them. They're amazing. So that was one of the things that I actually did, and that was on the Saturday. And then a few days later on the Tuesday, I'm doing another event. I was invited, kind of out the blues, a good friend actually. You know what? I'm learning good friends are quite hard. I never really had friends. I had acquaintances. Anyone in Scotland who's listening to this, don't be insulted. There are a couple of guys that know they were decent friends, but most of the people I knew were acquaintances. I'm learning actually now to have friends. At the age of 41, I might eventually be becoming an adult. Amazing. But I was recommended to this event by a friend, and to be honest, the guy who runs it, his name is Dan. It's Dan the One Man Band, Dan Dugai. Oh gosh, Dan, I'm sorry if you do listen to this. Probably you won't, but that's okay. Yeah, Dan Dugai is, I'm pretty sure is his name. Dan the One Man Band is his company name and what he's more known as. He basically organises what is called the Who Knows Variety Show, and it's held at the Inglewood Bar and Grill. I do that all the time. It's not the Inglewood Bar and Grill. It's the Ironwood Bar and Grill in Inglewood in Calgary. Great live music venue. Original live music venue, as I discovered when chatting to the owner, Patrick, last night. That was the start of the event. I will come back to that once I've explained a bit more. So the Who Knows Variety Show, a good friend of mine approached Dan and said, look, I know this storyteller guy, he might be quite good for this. And because Dan is just open, very interesting performer that wants to give variety and show the diversity of acts in Calgary, he agreed to have me on. And it was really funny because before the event started, I've never had this, and it kind of filled me with a wee bit of nerves when he went, so Calum, you're a storyteller? And I'm like, yes, yeah, okay. I've no idea what you do. I've not seen you in action, so I don't know anything about you. So, yeah, you've got 25 minutes, go do your thing. And I was like, you haven't seen or heard anything. And you know, that's terrifying because immediately you don't know how this is going to go down. I know my abilities. I know, you know, I can work a room and have fun and hopefully entertain. But when the event organiser doesn't know anything about you, hasn't even seen you, you have no idea what their expectations are. And that is terrifying because you're kind of hoping that they've done the research, and the reason they agreed to have you is because they kind of enjoyed you. But kudos to Dan for just taking the risks and Hopefully he was happy with the show. I enjoyed it. I think everyone else enjoyed it. There was a bit of banter about kilts and that going on for the rest of the night, so everyone seemed to be happy. But the Who Knows variety show is held monthly. And last night we had myself, obviously Dan Dugai, the host, Ethan Collister. Now, Ethan is a fantastic musician. He stood up there and sang some of his own original songs, him and his guitar. Beautiful voice, great playing, really envious and jealous of his singing and guitar playing talents. I've probably mentioned a few times on this show that I am like a train wreck when I sing, and I don't do it because basically, do you remember, the seagull from the Little Mermaid movie? You know, Disney's Little Mermaid, you know, Ariel, she's beautiful voice, Sebastian the crab, you know, his little accent, you know, everyone loves it. And then you've got that seagull that's just hideous sounding. That's pretty much me summing up my singing. Me singing is like a warbling, crazy noise of hell. In fact, somebody once did think that, you know, Armageddon had started when I was singing once, but we won't go into that in any more detail. So Ethan was their beautiful singer. We had, now I'm going to get this gentleman's name wrong, Jason Melnichuk. Jason, again, if you're listening, apologies for the mispronunciation. Wonderful street performer. You know what? I was so happy to see this. This guy was doing a lot of juggling, rollabola, stuff like that. Stuff that I've seen on the streets for years, working in Edinburgh, meeting all the guys, and I kind of miss it. And I didn't realise this young lad, and he is a young lad, totally jealous, talented, smiley, happy, not bitter and twisted like myself. He is still youthful and joyous. And there he was doing his stuff on stage. He was having trouble, not going to lie. He did a few fumbles when he was juggling, but I don't blame him because he had those lights were right in his eyes. And I was struggling to see the audience, so God knows how he saw the balls or the knives. I was quite nervous, actually, when he got up in his rollerbola and he was doing the knife juggling because he was pretty much blind at points. But well done to him, and Jason had great fun, really pleasant guy, spoke to him after, and it was lovely to see a street performer. As I say, I do miss that aspect of my life in Calgary. I do miss being able to go and just chill and chat with my old friends on the street. You know, I'd be doing a tour, finish, go and have a beer with them, chat, catch up in the day, go back out and work. That was the street working life. And it's something I'm hoping to capture in Calgary again. And hey, guys, whoa, quick stop here, complete sideline. I mentioned a couple of episodes ago about doing walking tours, and I haven't received a single damn thing from any of you. Might have been because I probably didn't give you a way of contacting me, but seriously, if anyone has ideas of a walking tour that they would love to see happen, I'm not here to steal your idea, I've got my own, but I'm interested to know what the public likes. If there's an idea or something that you've always thought, oh, I wish somebody did a walking tour like that, pop it to me at bothytales@gmail.com. bothytales@gmail.com. Tales as in Tales, not as in the furry waggling ones. But anyway, I miss that street aspect of my life, and it is tremendously good fun. So meeting Jason was a delight, and it reminded me of all the stuff I'm doing. Like, I'm heading over to Edmonton Fringe this year, not to actually do my own show, to work the kids' show this year. And I'm also doing some street stuff as well, and Jason's going to be there, so we're going to catch up for a beer and get to know each other a bit better. So that will be lovely, meeting some more local street performers. But the Who Knows variety show literally just did it last night. Depending when you hear this podcast, that'll confuse the hell out of you. So that has been my kind of last few days. It's been kind of really interesting, bit of variety, bit of different things, some confusion and some absolute joy. But the Who Knows variety show by Dan Dugai, the one-man band, is a phenomenal event. Normally 4 acts. I believe one of the acts, unfortunately, last night became poorly and couldn't make it. So we wish them all the best, and hopefully we will be seeing them soon. But I would be more than happy to go back to that show. It was just such a good feel, such a good show, such good fun. I kind of got up there and just did my ramble. It's kind of weird because when you're doing a variety show, it's difficult to know what story to tell. it's hard because you don't know the crowd, and sometimes it's weird because last night there was some younger members in the audience. So I thought I would just do a little bit about my kill, have a wee giggle about security airports, and then I went on and told some a historical Edinburgh tale, one that I've put on the podcast about grave robbers, gruesome and grisly, and just kind of chatted about that sort of stuff. It was more anecdotal than storytelling. It was more historical, not necessarily a flowing story. It was just me chatting, having fun, and kind of hopefully entertaining the audience. I love doing that sort of stuff, though. It just makes me happy, and these weird and wonderful events are just phenomenal. So head on to the website, Dan Dugai, the one-man band. You'll see the Who Knows Variety Show. It's at the Ironwood Bar and Grill in Inglewood. It's a monthly event, and he did mention last night that they've been picked up for next year, so things must be going well. So well done to Dan and the guys from last night. Wonderful event. Thanks for having me, and absolutely loved my time doing it. And now a wee word from our sponsors. The Rotary Club of Edmonton West, on behalf of its entire district, invites you to dream, connect and inspire at the District 5370 Conference in October. A number of stellar speakers, both local and international, are sharing their stories at this conference. Among them is Dr. Marilyn Fitzgerald, founder of Common Ground Solutions, a consulting firm that helps make sure humanitarian projects are effective and sustainable. She has written a book called If I Had a Water Buffalo, and she has a singular passion for helping others help themselves. The conference is open to the general public. It will also attract Rotarians from all over Western Canada and the world, which means you'll be in a room with some of the kindest and most community-minded people around. So come to the Shaw Conference Centre in Edmonton from October the 18th to the 20th. Learn more at conference5370-2018.ca. That's conference5370-2018.ca. There's a video there that will tell you more. And there you have a wee word from one of our sponsors. I've been trying to desperately think of a story that I could maybe tell you for this episode. And I've been racking my brains, and I've kind of come up a bit short. And then I thought about last night again, the variety show. And oddly enough, I thought about walking out of that show and looking up and seeing all those beautiful stars. And it reminded me of a story I've not told in a while. In fact, potentially, not even since coming to Canada. I will need to double check that with some recordings. But the reason for that is the version that I know of this story is a Scottish Celtic style tale. However, when I told it in the Redwood Forests, I had a gentleman come up and say that's actually, a native or First Nations tale. And I was like, wow. And it blew me away, but it also worried me because, the great belief in not taking away other cultures' stories, and certainly with the First Nations tales, you can't tell them until you're gifted them. But this gentleman reassured me that, the chances are this tale has travelled. It may have originally been a First Nations, and certainly we have a variation in Scotland as well. So it's kind of strange. So please forgive me if we have any First Nations listening. This is not me taking away your culture. This is a tale that I heard and was taught in Scotland, although apparently it's almost identical. But then to me that just shows the potential and beauty of how stories travel, how they traverse the world, how they get out there and move around. And to me that's the importance of stories. But this story is all about the night sky, and it starts with the clans or the tribes, and there they are living a happy life. Their life is filled with joy and love. The sun is up in the heavens, and during the day they hunt, they play, they teach their children, they live a beautiful life. But then when darkness comes, everything changes. The world becomes a terrifying and scary place. They huddle in their little huts, fearing what is outside, for there is no light to guide them. There is nothing to illuminate the heavens. and they're scared. They can hear the wild beasts scratching at the doors, looking for revenge. And as the years pass, the clans know they cannot take this anymore. So they travel across hill and valley, and they travel to meet the Creator. And they ask the Creator for help. They explain their plight. By day, life is beautiful and joyous. We live a happy life hunting and playing and teaching our children. But at night we are in fear. The world is plunged into such a heavy darkness. And the Creator listened to what they said. He thought long and hard about this. And then came with a solution. He told the clans to take their baskets down to the river. And there they will find pebbles of the purest white. They have to gather these pebbles day and night as quickly as they can until their baskets are filled and there is no pebble left. And once they have done this, they bring them back to the Creator. And the clans were happy. They immediately went and set about this task, gathering all these white pebbles that they could. And once they had done it, they took them back to the Creator, who looked upon them and smiled, for he knew the hard work they had done. Then he leaned over and picked out one of these white pebbles. Smiling and staring at it, he raised it high into the heavens and placed it there. This is the first star, or the one we call the North Star. Now take these baskets and take these pebbles and paint the heavens. Paint the heavens with love, with images of your family, of the beasts of the field, of the beasts of the ocean. Paint them of great hunts. Paint the heavens with these pebbles. And now the clans were delighted, for they went and started to paint the heavens with images. But as the Creator looked down, he saw what a heavy burden he had placed upon the people. It was a slow job. The baskets were heavy. So he decided to call upon help. And he called upon Wolf. He asked Wolf if he could carry the burdens of the baskets and aid the people in the task. And of course, Wolf was a rather haughty creature, feeling that, of course he could. There was none other but him that could possibly help. So Wolf went and took the burden of the baskets, and the people painted the heavens. But as the days passed, the weight started to bear down on Wolf. And he started to get impatient. How can these creatures be so slow? So he started to snarl out ideas. And the people became a little bit wary of Wolf. As the days passed and work continued slowly, Wolf got more angry and frustrated. He started to bark and snarl out orders to get them to move faster. The people worked hard and became more fearful of Wolf. Wolf, his anger building and frustration, the pain in his back growing, started to snarl and snap and growl, demanding that these weak creatures move faster. And the people became so fearful of Wolf that work all but ceased. And eventually, Wolf could take it no more. His anger built to such a level that one day in frustration he roared and bellowed, barked and snarled, and grabbed the baskets and threw them high into the heavens, scattering the pebbles far and wide. And Wolf, with a toothy grin, looked into the heavens and smiled at his handiwork, and showing the world that he and only he had the ability to do this job so quickly. But as Wolf looked up into the heavens, his smile began to fade. For all too soon he realised the error of his ways. For in his anger he had thrown all the pebbles into the sky, but he had yet to paint his own image into the heavens. And Wolf looked up desperately, hoping to find something that resembled himself, and saw nothing. And as he raised his head, he opened his mouth and let out a mournful cry into the skies. And that cry echoed down throughout the ages. For all the ancestors of wolf, coyote, hyena, dog that we own domestically, when Lady Moon is out in the night sky, the mistress of the heavens, when the stars are bright, all the dogs look up and start howling at the night sky. For a while we thought it was because the mistress was out, calling to them. But now we know it's because every night they go and look into the heavens, desperately searching for an image of themselves, but find nothing. And the pain and sadness wells in them, and they howl to the heavens, begging the stars to rearrange themselves to show their image. And that is the story that I learnt in Scotland, that apparently belongs over in America and Canada. And I beg your humble forgiveness if anyone feels that I have misappropriated and taken a tale that I shouldn't. But I promise it is also a Scottish version. And I love that story because, to me, it's a really important story. I'm now living under a different set of stars. Every night I go out there and I look into the heavens and I get confused. I get puzzled because I don't see the familiar shapes where they should be. I don't see them where I recognise them to be. And it always reminds me how far away from home I am. But on knowing that story, it also reminds me that no matter how far away from your home you are, you're going to always have that night sky to look up and admire. And it'll always remind me that stories travel, stars travel, people travel. But everything is always the same. The stars are there. Our hearts are there. Our lives are there. Our loved ones are still always waiting for us. So thank you for listening to that tale. And after that little tale, where I kind of got very emotional at the end, Hey, I'm a storyteller. I'm allowed to do stuff like that. We're going to move straight on to our book recommendation. As you know, the Bothy Storytelling Podcast is connected with Audible, and you can get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/Bothy Podcast. They've got over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle or MP3 player. And with that in mind, the book that I thought I would recommend, well, you know what? We're kind of keeping this in the technology vein today. I did the Wordcamp, all about WordPress. I am completely useless at technology, so I thought, WordPress and all that, let's recommend a book from Audible on that. And the one that I'm going to recommend is The Year Without Pants. WordPress.com and the Future of Work. This is a book on Audible, and you can get that for $26.81. It is written by Scott Berklin and narrated by Chris Kaiser. It's roughly about 8 hours and 32 minutes of information and help on WordPress and the background to it. But The Year Without Pants immediately excites me, that title. I am delighted to be able to announce that on the Bothy Storytelling Podcast. The Year Without Pants, WordPress.com and the Future of Work, available at audible.ca. And as I say, if you go to audibletrial.com/Bothy Podcast, you can get your free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial. It's well worth it. $26 worth of book, 8 hours and 32 minutes worth of audio files, and basically a book that you can say, hey guys, I'm listening to A Year Without Pants. Oh yeah! To be honest, if I'm going to be ridiculous here with that title, that is the story of my life. A year without pants. That's literally how I used to travel, in a kilt. Pants are a new thing. In fact, we call them trousers. Pants in the UK are your underwear. So when I read stuff like that, I don't even know where we're going. Are they meaning trousers? Are they meaning underwear? Technically, as a kilt wearer, I cover all those bases. A year without pants, folks, at audible.com/Bothy podcast. Get your 30-day free trial and your free audiobook download. $26.81, 8 hours and 32 minutes of great book about having no pants on. That's a lie, but you need to buy it to truly find out. And you guys already know the formula of this show, what comes after the book recommendation, but Calum's podcast recommendation. Whee! Bells and whistles. As you know, we're part of the Alberta Podcast Network, a wonderful group of podcasts all over the Alberta province, Edmonton, Calgary, and further afield. Guys like myself, they're out there just putting their heart and soul out. Some about hockey, some about technology, some about just chatting. There's storytelling, there's corporate stuff. There's a huge wealth of different podcasts on there. Highly recommend looking up the Alberta Podcast Network and seeing who is on their books. But for my podcast recommendation, again, let's keep it in the vein of what we've done, the WordPress. The variety show side is kind of, I'm letting that one slide for my recommendations at the moment, but the WordPress and Wordcamp event that I did, you know, there was a lot of stuff about social media, web design, etc. So there is actually a podcast called Don't Call Me a Guru. And the podcast is about social media strategy from the point of view of two social media strategists, Tyler Jack Butler and Linda Hong. If I pronounced that wrong, I apologise. I'm really bad at pronouncing name. You know, I should probably contact people and just get them to phone me up and tell me how to pronounce their name. Maybe it's a Scottish thing. Maybe it's just me. I'm useless at it. Anyway, Don't Call Me a Guru on the Alberta Podcast Network. A podcast all about social media strategy from the point of view of two social media strategists. Well worth a listen. Certainly, if you're into your social media, if you're into everything like the WordPress and the WordCamp, this is a podcast for you that will help you work out some of your social media strategies. I'm hoping it's not just a fake title. You know, I'm pretty sure these guys know what they're talking about, and they're not just going to then talk about soccer. That was probably a wee dig at Adam there. He'll kick my ass when he hears that. Anyway, Don't Call Me a Guru on the Alberta Podcast Network. And there you have it, the podcast and book recommendations for this episode of the Bothy Storytelling Podcast. And with that, folks, that brings us to the end of another episode of me rambling and telling stories. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. I hope you've enjoyed hearing a wee bit about what I've been doing and some of the storytelling antics that are out there. If you are enjoying the podcast, we do have a Patreon page at the Bothy Storytelling Podcast on Patreon. Head over there and become a patron. Sign up and basically help me take this to the next level. I'm only asking for one donation style. The $5 is the sort of minimum donation. You can donate as much as you want, but the way I look at it, you're buying me a coffee. You're buying me a pint of lager to hear me tell some stories and make this podcast better. There is some future news coming up, and it may affect scheduling for a few weeks of the podcast, mainly because I'm going to be doing a bit of construction work, but that is immediately going to enhance things for your listening pleasure. But thanks again for joining me on yet another Bothy Storytelling Podcast. I've been your host, Calum Lykan. I'm loving doing this. I hope you're loving hearing it, and I will see, hear, and hopefully find those ears on the next episode.